time or a part of his character, but still, it still would make my ears raise, you know. And then for her to go in to say that she was dealing with him at times where him and I were in a relationship. All this is prior to marriage. Like that's unacceptable to me because again, Jocelyn and I have had issues in our past where I was unfaithful, stuff like that. But that was also within the first year of us knowing and meeting each other. But the time frame that she's speaking of, like we were like serious living together. So it's just like if any of that is true, like he would be a foul of our relationship and
Yeah.
just so wrong. And so that's my thing. And so I know that everybody is of the opinion I shouldn't care.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're talking to you today, guys, about the female ego. Don't watch my background, I'm in Ghana, so a bit of a different setup. But we're talking to you guys about the female ego and talking about obviously Kendra and the jock situation. Now, I know a lot of you, um, you know, uh, look at the Jock and the Kendra situation. A lot of people see how easy it is to point out the flaws of Jock, and I would agree with you. I wouldn't even disagree. A lot of people find it easy to talk about Jock's behavior and how bad Jock is and what Jock needs to improve on and what Jock needs to do and how he's disrespected Kendra. And I would agree with you. I'm not even going to disagree with you on that as well. I think what I'm also picking up, though, is now because a lot of times the reason why I try to give the different angle is because a lot of people end up in the space of being the victim. And what I don't want people to do is stay a victim. I've been a victim before. I know what victimhood looks like. I know what it smells like. I know what it tastes like. And this ego aspect affects a lot of victims in these type of relationships. A lot of times we don't like to see the reality of our life, which is you are part and parcel of the issue. And a lot of times we don't want to see that because we believe, quote unquote, we got done wrong and therefore we're justified to feel how we do. You are justified to feel how you do, but let's not be in that situation again. Let's learn the lessons. Let's look back and see why we ended up in that position. And we can look at Kendra and young Jock. What did she just say? Now I might have to break this down to 2-3 parts because I've titled this a female ego, and I want to focus on the reason why people stay in these situations. But that little clip there that was provided was an amazing clip and insight into how foundationally this relationship was wrong from the very beginning. She was cheating, he was cheating, or something called, he was moving mad, right? She admits to her cheating, but I don't think he's necessarily admitted to his cheating. But anyway, let's say he was cheating, she was cheating, right? Foundationally, this is not a great start. Okay, right? Her talking about counseling and everything that should have been done before they got into a marriage. That should have been done before they got into a relationship. That should have been done before the Medea situation actually even ever happened. They should have been going to counseling from the jump because y'all were cheating on each other. Y'all were moving mad. Y'all were in toxic relationship. So why are we staying in these type of relationships? Because of the ego. Now I know why Jock's in it, because he gets a benefit from having somebody who's ride or die. You know what? That is business orientated, who's beautiful, can serve, and is somebody who's astute, smart, and it seems that they do get along. It's just that they have their issues. So I can see how he's benefiting from the situation, why he stays in it. At the end of the day, he's going to get his kids. He's going to get a wife that can help him. He's going to get a helpmate, whatever. But if we're talking about this situation from the other perspective, which is a lot of you are pointing out that with the Kendra situation, why is he still in this marriage? Well, let's talk about the female ego then. Now, that's a very long introduction, but if you're new to the channel, like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know the model, baby. You got the minerals. Oh my God, my voice is gone. Yeah, if you're new here, listen, I sing a lot, but it's not happening today. Wait, let me try that. You got the minerals. Probably shouldn't have ate that cake earlier on. All right, let's get back into the show. Stay hydrated because streets out there are hot. All right, cool. So let's talk about a little bit about the Kendra situation. So when we're talking about the ego, what we're talking about is the strong competitive streak, throw around, stand their ground, boast ego, higher sense of self-importance, grandiose almost in a sense. Not narcissistic, but just grandiose. And we all have this aspect in us as human beings. It's a natural psychological aspect. We have egos which we are influenced by. Okay, but when we're talking about in a situation with Kendra, I think one of the most important things I saw, and I broke it down a little bit more easier, is aspects of thinking that you're better than anybody else, with the female with anybody's ego, by the way, but I'm just titling it female ego because she's a woman. Having thinking you're better than anybody else, so grander self importance, staying in the situation longer than you need to because you think you have control in them is part of the ego. Competing unnecessarily, boasting about yourself, and and then obviously the strong sense of independence. I can do all bad by myself, or do all good by myself in that sense. And so let's just look at a little deep dive into the Kendra and Jock interview, because I think it was really powerful things that I saw within it as well. And then in my other videos, I'm going to break down some body language and everything as well, give you some different aspects to what you actually saw. Let's have a look at this part here, right? So let me just show this part. Let's go back to that first part, right? So why is she in this relationship? Let's find out why she's in this relationship.
And so it's like, that's weird, that's horrible. It's not far from, I guess, his character at the time, or a part of his character, but still, it still would make my ears raise. And then for her to go in to say that she was dealing with him at times where him and I were in a relationship, all this is prior to marriage, like, that's unacceptable to me, because again, Jocelyn and I have had issues in our past where I was unfaithful, stuff like that, but that was also within the first year of us knowing and meeting each other. But the time frame that she's speaking of, like, we were like serious living together. So it's just like, if any of that is true, like, he would be a foul of our relationship. It's just so wrong. And so that's my thing.
Okay, so she starts off really well here. I mean, she's talking about the situation, breaking down, the Medea situation in terms of how, like, what, if she finds out that in the end, that, he was messing around with her during the relationship, then, basically what she's going to be saying is, she'll be hurt by that, right? Now, what's really important about this is that, you know, when people stay in situations like this where it's toxic, where what, you can't even trust their word. Let's be honest, you can't. You're not really sure if they're cheating or not, but you know what, you've had history of doing it. Another lady's come out and told you some of this nonsense as well. You later on, and I'll show you a clip. You later on come out and say you don't want your kids to be with a man like this. Okay, you don't want to. You don't want your kids to be the man that behaves like this. Then that should ask you the question. So why would you want to be in a relationship with somebody who you wouldn't even want your kids to be like? And the reason being here is because, number one, what you've missed is, you see, ego goes hand in hand with pride. And what pride does is, pride cometh before a fall. It makes you blind to situations, right? And oftentimes what you see in relationships is that women in their particular one, I'm caring, I'm nurturing, I'm loving, and so I must be an amazing partner. Similar to how men also are, like, I provide, I protect. I'm going to show you clips of that. I'm an amazing partner. No, you're not. You need more than that, right? But also, with the added part of this is, when you stay in situations like this, you feel you have some element of control, some element of control within the relationship, because she's not being threatened, she's not being forced. She feels she has some element of control within this relationship. And not only that, she's getting something out of it. Now, if you watch the other parts of these videos, you'll see that she spoke about how, she's going to get into her music. So maybe part of her mindset is, stay in this, get in the information that he has about music, get the understanding, let him teach you a few things, and then be out. Maybe that's why she's staying in it. Staying in a situation longer than you need to, because you realize you think you have control. I shouldn't even say realize, but you think you have some element of control over the dynamics of this relationship. Meanwhile, you're still being stressed, you're still being hurt, you're still sad at points because of the behavior other person is exhibiting. That's part of that female ego, thinking that you have control of the dynamics, right? And so, you see how she plays. I want to show you a little clip here where she talks about not wanting to be, in a sense, played. Okay, watch this little clip here.
Utilize my services. Use SRS title for your closing attorney. Let him figure out all that other stuff. I don't care about it. You know what I mean? But it's like, I just don't want to appear to look weak and look like I'm being lied to and manipulated by somebody who's supposed to be my husband, my rock, and my protector. So, that's just where all of this comes. It boils down to just that. It's not a good.
So in amongst all of that, like I said, we understand her position. In fact, in this relationship, and nobody wants to be embarrassed. Nobody wants to look like a fool. But I know the ego and the pride. because it's something that I carry myself. So I know when it sounds like, and it sounds like that moment. I don't want no one to play me. I don't want no one to. I don't want nobody to look like I got egg in my face. And that's where, when you start saying those bars, what really you mean is, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be some way I'm gonna some way be non-flexible to vulnerability. I'm not gonna be as vulnerable. Because what you're always going to be doing is always checking people to make sure they don't play you. That makes you cautious, and that makes you somebody who ends up checking to double checking every motive that somebody has, because you don't want to be played. You always want to make sure I'm not going to be looking stupid. But the reality is, the ego plays a big part, because what the pride says is, I can do better by myself. Oh, sorry, apologies. And then it gives you an aspect of um it gives you an aspect in the sense of you know, that in this situation, like for instance, I don't want to be embarrassed, I don't want to be played. Like, my ego is all about, hey, you know what, no one can make me look like a fool. You have an inflated sense of self, an inflated sense of esteem. It's like, nobody can do me dirty like that, you dumb. Like, no, of course. But again, the repercussion of it, like I said again, is that it makes you invulnerable in relationships. And I keep saying this to people: while you become invulnerable in parts of your relationships, you can actually trigger somebody else who's reacting to your invulnerability, and then that makes them invulnerable as well too. That doesn't mean they're right or wrong, doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It means it's a chain reaction that can go in a circle and a circle. Someone could assume or even sense or feel that you're also being inflexible in your vulnerability, and then they could be triggered, and you could be triggered by the fact that they were triggered and not realizing they were triggered. They're just reacting to what you did. It can get really quickly before you realize that you think you're at the starting block of, it wasn't me that started it. But when you really deep it, you start having conversations, you'll realize you may not know that you may not be the origin of something, or you may be the origin. It doesn't really matter. Either way, people are reacting to certain things that we do. You know, and then she went on to say, obviously, about you know, not wanting to her daughters to, you know, to marry. Does he want to marry a man like him? Right? Listen to this.
And for our daughters, it looks horrible. Like I told him, I said, now take one of our daughters meeting and falling in love with a man like you, who exudes and exhibits the behavior and has every trait that you have, the good, the bad, the ugly, and in between. And would you be comfortable giving him away to her?
One thing
And
I can answer,
I
and I
meant
can
that.
answer that question wholeheartedly, and I can stand on it. I would not be mad, because one thing about me, I'm a provider and I'm a protector. That's one thing
But
about
being a
it.
provider and a protector does not make it okay to be a liar,
I
a
didn't say
cheater, a
what. No, no,
womanizer.
no, no,
It
no.
doesn't.
Listen,
Now, here's a funny thing. She thinks she's got a moral high ground. So that's why she's reasoning in this particular way. I know I do the exact same thing, right? Sometimes when I do it in relationships, someone called me out on this the other time. And that's what I'm saying about the ego, ego. You don't realize, you think you have a moral high ground in this relationship, but you don't realize the fact you're even staying in it is your biggest problem, because you keep having this moral high ground because you're comparing yourself to the other person within the relationship, and it gives you a sense of power within your own mind. Or, I'm the better person in this relationship than you. But the reality is, if you're staying in it, you ain't no better. Okay, because you need to work with that person to get to where you need to get to. What you need to work on is your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, what she goes on to say is, would you want any of your daughters to marry someone like you? Well, sis, if you are married to the very man, what makes you think, if you're saying that your daughters shouldn't marry somebody like him, why the heck are you married? You're acting as if that you don't realize that you staying in a relationship with somebody who you believe your daughter shouldn't even marry someone like him, and you think that by you staying, you're not showing them the same thing. And I keep saying this: you don't realize your kids are watching what you do, not just what you say. So you coming out and being like, oh, would you want our daughters to marry someone like you? Darling, you married to the man still. So your behavior is no better than him doing what he's doing, because you're teaching your daughters to stay with a man who you believe she shouldn't be dating. Deep what you're saying. And you won't deep it because your female ego is giving you a sense of inflated sense of self, that I am more important than I actually am. And then that you almost in the sense of, I'm different. You're not different. You're the same. Ain't no different than anybody else. You're exactly the same. And so you're giving yourself this too much grand importance. The boasting that she does, even within the relationship. I think at one point when, she wanted to, there's a part where I'm trying to find my notes as well, where she was talking about what she actually does. And she was like, oh, I could basically, I could basically talking about my net worth. My net worth's even double. Da, 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 da. And I was like, okay, there we go. It's coming through. Here we go. Let me get it for you. There we go. I have to go through my notes to see
Are
it.
fabricated. None of my accolades are exaggerated.
And go back before
Ooh,
it's okay. Go.
and I know that sometimes people say, "Oh, that's cliche," but I'm real serious because in real life, I'm really this girl in real life. Like none of my businesses are fabricated. None of my accolades are exaggerated. No net worth estimates. Hell, they might be estimating that too low. You know what I mean? So like in real life, Kendra, the person, independent of all of this messy, cloudy mess that Jaceel has, it like you know what I mean. It's like I could do without that and be probably better, arguably better off. You know what I mean? So like that stuff bothers me. A ring.
Did she hear herself? So she tells us, she starts, that's where the boasting comes in. She starts going on like, oh my God, like, I got my net worth and everything like that, blah, blah. It's even lower than what it might be, heck, it might be lower than it actually is. Like trying to basically prove that, she is this, I am that chick. Da, da, da. When you hear people talking like that, they're trying to sell you this dream of who they believe they think they are. And I don't even know if she fully believes it. She might do. But, oh, I am this girl. I'm it girl. Like, you can't touch me. Da, 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 you can't do nothing to me. Like, if it's me, you can't say this. You can't do that. Like, da, da, da. It's that kind of rhetoric and that kind of energy. And what people don't realize is that comes from a place of the ego. It's the ego that's speaking that way. It's that independent spirit. It's that pride that speaks that particular way. And so you hear it, and I know it where it comes from. And you know what I mean? So when she was saying all of that, she said even, she could arguably be even better off. I'm like, sis, why are you in this relationship? No, deep it. The way that you're shading him on several occasions, we're going to do a separate video for that, all the shade that she threw. Why are you in this relationship? No, really, sis, why are you in this relationship? Because clearly you better. Clearly he needs you, then you need him, right? But that would still mean your ego is playing up, because why are you in a relationship where he needs you and you don't really need him? Right? Your ego is making you have this sense that you think you're better, but by you staying in it, both people slinging mud gets on both of us. If you think you're better than a pig, but standing in the mud of the pigsty, you ain't no better than a pig. You think you are, but you're not. You're in the same place as the pig. So we need to look at it from a different point of view. Now, what I realized with Kendra is she allows her ego to maneuver her in these situations, and that's why she stayed in it for so long. Or stayed with Young Jock as she did, because she ignored all the red flags that they had at previous at the very beginning of the relationship. Then talks about counseling later on, but then at the same time also talks about how Young Jock needs to do better, because obviously he's a role model for the kids, but she's not doing any better because she's with the gentleman who she believes her kids shouldn't be with. And then then you got a little bit of the threats as well. I can basically, like, at any given time, I could contact counties and be out. Babe, you ain't going nowhere. Okay, stop trying to ascertain that you are a level to him, because he doesn't care that way. He's not inclined that way. He doesn't think that way. And so you trying to make those threats don't really make sense to someone like Young Jock. I'm not bigging him up, by the way. I'm not giving him any. I'm not saying that he's a catch 22. But what I'm saying to you is, if you want a relationship, people, you want to make it healthy, you'll be very, very careful about your own female ego making you think that you're better than people, and you actually aren't, because you stay in these situations longer than you actually need to. You be in a relationship that you don't need to be. You're cussing the father of your kid, saying da da da, but you're marrying him. You're saying you want your daughters to be different, but you're marrying him. You don't want your boys to be like him, but yet you've married him and you're still with him. Anyway, let me leave it there. First part. We'll do part two. We talk about the shade that she throw all throughout, and we talk about this passive aggressiveness of women as well. Like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked in.